The entry of Bronny James into the NBA represented something truly unique. It was unique because everyone told us that a player who averaged 4.8 points per game was NBA ready. It truly felt as if I was in the Twilight Zone and in an episode of Black Mirror at the same damn time. Selected with the 55th overall pick in the 2024 NBA Draft by the Los Angeles Lakers, Bronny enters the league not merely as a rookie prospect, but as the focal point of a contentious debate regarding the prerequisites for NBA viability. The prevailing skepticism surrounding his career, summarized by the assertion that he can't and won't succeed. For a player of Bronny James's physical profile, measured at 6 feet 1.5 inches without shoes, the path to such success is mathematically narrow. The history of the league demonstrates that undersized guards who lack elite, outlier-level skills in either shooting or playmaking face an attrition rate approaching 100%. The Curry threshold, the necessity for a small guard to possess gravity-warping shooting ability, is a standard Bronny James has failed to meet at every level of organized basketball. Furthermore, the psychological ecosystem surrounding Bronny is without precedent. The LeBron factor creates a dual burden. It provides unearned opportunities while simultaneously imposing crushing expectations that distort development. These impediments are shown by exhaustive, data-driven analysis. By dissecting these measurable realities, shooting mechanics, defensive limitations, and the sociology of NBA nepotism, it becomes evident for the conclusion that Bronny James lacks the foundational tools required for a sustainable NBA career. In the assessment of basketball prospects, physical dimensions act as the primary filter. While heart and hustle are praised in colloquial discussions, the NBA is governed by the physics of length and leverage. The fundamental argument against Bronny James begins with a critical discrepancy between his perceived stature and his actual measurements. For much of his high school career, Bronny was listed generously at 6 feet 3 inches or 6 feet 4 inches, dimensions that would place him within the standard deviation for an NBA combo guard. However, the 2024 NBA Draft Combine revealed a starker reality. Bronny is 6 feet 1.5 inches, which places him in the less than 10th percentile. This severely limits passing vision and finishing angles in the paint. The measurement of 6 feet 1.5 inches is the single most damaging datum in his profile. In the modern NBA, the shooting guard position, which Bronny's skill set most closely aligns with, has an average height of approximately 6 feet 5 inches to 6 feet 6 inches. This creates an immediate structural deficit. When Bronny James steps onto the floor, he is mathematically likely to be giving up 3 to 5 inches of height to his direct positional matchup. This height deficit is not merely a matter of aesthetics, it alters the geometry of the court. A 6 foot 1.5 inch player operates in a more congested visual field. Passing lanes that are open for a 6 foot 8 inch playmaker like his father are obstructed for him. Finishing at the rim requires steeper launch angles to avoid blocks, which inherently lowers field goal percentages. The NBA has trended toward positionless basketball, prioritizing length and switchability. A 6 foot 1.5 inch guard is a target in this ecosystem, a mismatch to be hunted by opposing offenses. The unfavorable comparison to his father, LeBron James. This comparison is often dismissed as unfair, yet it is essential to understanding the disappointment associated with Bronny's prospect status. LeBron James is not just a skilled player, he is a biological outlier whose dominance is predicated on being bigger, faster, and stronger than his opposition. Bronny James did not inherit this specific physical advantage. The variance between father and son is substantial enough to dictate entirely different career trajectories. Bronny is not a mini LeBron. He is a fundamentally different physical entity. LeBron's game is built on power and vision, traits facilitated by his size. He can drive through contact because he outweighs defenders by 30 pounds and stands taller than them. Bronny, conversely, is smaller than the average defender. He cannot bully his way to the rim. He cannot throw cross-court skip passes with the same ease because he cannot see the weak side corner over the outstretched arms of a 6 foot 9 inch wing defender. The physically imposing nature of LeBron is completely absent consistent in Bronny. While Bronny is strong for his size, 210 pounds, strength at 6 feet 1 inch is functionally different from strength at 6 feet 8 inches. A 6 foot 1 inch tank is still susceptible to being shot over. A 6 foot 8 inch tank controls the airspace. This genetic regression to the mean has stripped Bronny of the primary weapon that defined the James legacy. The history of the NBA is increasingly unkind to players under 6 feet 3 inches. In the 1990s or early 2000s, specialized roles for small guards existed. Today, teams prioritize jumbo playmakers like Luka, SGA, and Cade Cunningham. The average height of an NBA player in 2025 is roughly 6 feet 7 inches. The average point guard is now over 6 feet 3 inches. To survive as a statistical outlier on the lower end of the height spectrum, a player must possess an outlier skill on the upper end of the talent spectrum. This brings us to the most critical component, the shooting requirement, the Steph Curry threshold. I argue that a 6 foot 2 inch shooting guard or off guard without playmaking abilities would need to have a shot comparable to Steph Curry. The argument is that Bronny never could be even good being a 6 foot 2 inch guard who can't shoot or playmake. This observation is rooted in the concept of strengths that makes up for the gap. Because a 6 foot 2 inch player is a defensive liability, switch target, and a finishing liability, rim protection, they must generate massive offensive value to justify their presence on the court. Stephen Curry, 6 feet 2 inches, revolutionized basketball not just by shooting well, but by shooting with such volume, range, and efficiency that he breaks defensive schemes. He forces defenses to extend to 35 feet, opening up 4-on-3 opportunities for teammates. This is gravity. For Bronny James to succeed, he does not necessarily need to be the best shooter of all time, but he must be an elite shooter to survive. And the fact is that he is not even a good shooter. Across every level of higher competition, college, NBA Summer League, NBA preseason, and the G League, Bronny James has failed to demonstrate consistent shooting proficiency. This is a player who is, at best, if I am feeling generous, a streak shooter, and for the most part, a liability. A 3-point percentage hovering in the high 20s or low 30s is totally unacceptable for a 6 foot 2 off guard. Take your ass to the gym and shoot 500 to 1,000 threes every morning until it clicks. Steph is still perfecting his shot, so who the hell do you think you are? Defenses in the NBA are highly sophisticated. When they identify a sub 30% shooter, they employ drop coverage or simply sag off the player. This neutralizes the offense. If Bronny is on the court with LeBron and Bronny's defender can stand in the paint, it clogs the driving lanes for LeBron. Bronny's lack of shooting actively harms the team's spacing geometry. Scouting reports and biomechanical analysis identify specific issues in Bronny's shot that prevent him from reaching the Curry threshold. Release speed. Steph Curry has one of the fastest releases in history, 0.4 seconds. Bronny's mechanics are described as picturesque but deliberate. In the NBA, a deliberate shot gets blocked or contested. At 6 feet 1.5 inches, Bronny needs a lightning quick release to get the shot off before the 6 feet 7 inch defender closes out. He does not have this. Passivity. Multiple scouting reports highlight a lack of aggression. He often passes up open shots or hesitates. This hesitation is fatal. An undersized shooter must have the irrational confidence to fire immediately. Hesitation allows the defense to recover, negating the advantage. Lack of self-creation. Steph Curry can dribble into a three-pointer. Bronny relies almost exclusively on catch-and-shoot opportunities. He lacks the bag, dribble moves, to create separation. This means he is dependent on others to create for him, limiting his value to that of a stationary turret, a turret that misfires 70% of the time. The defensive myth, why heart cannot overcome physics. The narrative of the defensive specialist. Cognizant of his offensive limitations, the narrative surrounding Bronny has pivoted to defense. The Lakers organization and supporters tout him as a defensive specialist, drawing comparisons to players players like Davion Mitchell and Gary Payton II. The argument is that Bronny can carve out a career as a pest, a point-of-attack defender who hounds opposing ball handlers. This comparison falls apart when scrutinized against the specific traits that make Mitchell and Payton successful. Gary Payton II is an anomaly, a defensive power forward in a guard's body. He plays bigger than his size due to freakish verticality and timing. Bronny has a good vertical, but he has not shown the ability to utilize it defensively in the same way. Davion Mitchell was the NCAA Defensive Player of the Year and a national champion who dominated defensively at the highest collegiate level. Bronny was a bench player at USC with a defensive rating that was respectable but not dominant. The NBA regular season allows for hiding weak defenders. The playoffs do not. In a 7-game series, opposing coaches identify the weakest physical link and exploit it relentlessly. If Bronny James is on the court, he becomes the immediate target of switch hunting. G League data supports this concern. His defensive rating of 116 suggests that even against sub-NBA competition, he is not a lockdown defender. He is merely an average one. In the NBA, an average 6'2" defender is a liability. The burden of the name, sociological and psychological pressures, the huge burden of legacy, the pressure of being LeBron's son as a distinct impediment. This is not a cliche. It is a tangible variable that affects performance. Bronny James operates under a microscope unlike any 55th pick in history. A typical second-round pick can develop in anonymity. If they shoot 1 for 8 in a G League game, no one notices. When Bronny shoots 1 for 8, it trends on social media. This hypervisibility creates a toxic developmental environment. Fear of failure. To play effectively, especially as a shooter, one requires a relaxed state of flow. The constant scrutiny likely induces tension. Passivity is often a symptom of a player trying to avoid mistakes rather than trying to make plays. The presence of his father on the team complicates the standard rookie accountability structures. As the Lakers struggle for seeding, the opportunity cost of Bronny's roster spot becomes a source of silent tension. The Stephen A. Smith/LeBron confrontation illustrates how Bronny's performance becomes a media circus that distracts the team. Teams generally avoid distractions. Bronny brings a circus with him, the graveyard of sons. History provides ample evidence that the sons of all-time greats rarely replicate their father's success. Outliers like LeBron James produce offspring who are likely to be closer to the average human than to the outlier parent. Jeffrey and Marcus Jordan, Michael Jordan's sons. Marcus was a solid collegiate scorer, 12.3 points per game at UCF, but went undrafted. Jeffrey averaged 1.6 points per game. Neither had MJ's 6'6" size or freakish athleticism. They, like Bronny, were undersized guards who couldn't escape the shadow. Sharif O'Neal, Shaquille O'Neal's son, a 6'10" forward who dealt with heart issues similar to Bronny's cardiac arrest. Despite the name and size, he struggled in the G League and has not found an NBA foothold. Gary Payton II. While successful now, it took GP 6 years of grinding in the G League to make it. He went undrafted. Bronny was drafted 55th, but his stats are arguably worse than GP2's were at the same stage. GP2 was a 2-time Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. Bronny was a bench player. The 55th pick success rate. The probability of any 55th pick succeeding is statistically microscopic. Fewer than 10% of players drafted in the 50 to 60 range play more than 3 years in the NBA. The number of 55th picks who become starters is vanishingly small. Patty Mills is a rare exception. Most 55th picks who stick do so because they have one elite skill, usually shooting. Bronny lacks this skill. Without the name James, his statistical profile, 4.8 points per game at USC, would not have warranted a draft selection or a standard NBA contract. Supporters often point to Bronny's G League stats, a 10.5 points per game average, as proof of potential. However, context is vital. The G League is a high-paced, offense-first league. NBA caliber guards often average 20 to 25 points per game in the G League. Mac McClung, Cam Thomas. Bronny's shooting efficiency in the G League, 34 field goal percentage, is well below the replacement level. A guard shooting 34% in the G League is typically released, not called up. His plus-minus ratings have often been negative, even in games where he scores, indicating a net negative impact on the team's performance. Development takes time the Lakers may not have. Bronny is 20 years old. To become an NBA rotation player, he needs 2 to 3 years of heavy reps, but he is on a team trying to win a championship this year with LeBron. He cannot get reps in the NBA, and his G League reps are scrutinized globally. This misalignment of timelines sets him up for failure. Why Bronny James can't and won't succeed is supported by a convergence of fatal flaws that no amount of hard work can easily overcome. The barriers to Bronny James' success are not merely doubts, they are structural realities rooted in anthropometry and statistical probability. The ceiling is the floor. Like, subscribe, and share, and tell me if you agree with my assessment of Bronny or you think he can still be great. Thanks for watching.